Happy Monday, traders. It is the 3rd of February, 2020. It's 8 a.m. Chicago time for episode number 1684. Thanks for coming in today. Some interesting action overnight. The market theme is yet again risk off under the coronavirus fear. The market has done some selling off globally, but the U.S. market is really holding up pretty well. Did not make a lower low this morning in the S&P. The indices are actually higher than where they were than where they closed on Friday or settled on Friday. So the Russell is leading the pack strong, a strong 12-point up from settlement, up 0.76%. The Nasdaq's up almost 60 points, up 0.65%. The S&P is stronger as well, up 17 points or half a percent. The Dow is up 0.46% or 129 points. The pound is off today, more than 1% on the futures, on issues on discussions, disagreements between the Prime Minister of the UK and the Eurozone. He's saying that he's prepared to walk away without a deal with the Eurozone and was looking for a Canada-style trade agreement. Crude oil's off 27 cents, trading at 51.29 or 0.5%. Crude is back to its big reference area here at 50.75 or so. Again, it's trading 51.31. That's where we stand this morning. The bonds are off 7 ticks. The notes are off 6.5 ticks. And the Eurobond is down 18 ticks. On the news front, in terms of what is really going on out there, really, the PBOC is doing whatever it can. The Bank of China is doing whatever it can to buoy up the economy. You have a very large economic area that is currently under quarantine, and there's no economic activity. A lot of airlines have canceled their flights in and out of China. This is expected to have a large negative impact on the Chinese economy and an overall negative impact on the global economy. The coronavirus death toll passes 360 with about 17,400 cases confirmed. I believe there are 9 in the US, and they're just scattered everywhere. So that's where we stand this morning. The market again has this a little bit of jitters and did come off on Friday, a lot more than what was expected. Here's what's on deck today in the calendar. This morning we had a bunch of numbers out of Europe. Everybody can find a calendar and see what's happened. I recommend the tradingeconomics.com/calendar for a view. It doesn't necessarily catch every speaker, every announcement, but it does catch the big ones. Looking ahead today, U.S. has the market manufacturing PMI at 9:45, 15 minutes after the open. At 10 o'clock Eastern, we have construction spending and ISM manufacturing. Those are important to keep an eye on. And then ECB President Lagarde at 1 Eastern, noon Central, and Bundesbank's Weidemann at 1:15. Fed's Bostic at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And then the Reserve Bank of Australia announces its interest rate decision at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, expecting to hold at 75 basis points. So that's where we stand here. A quick look at the expectations for Friday. Given the close, the rally, given the rally we had on Thursday and the strength of that consolidation and break higher, The expectation really was for follow through to the upside, was looking for 32.97 and a half to be challenged and taken, especially 92.75. The secondary scenario was an attempt higher that fails and pushes back into equilibrium into the 32.56 area or so. And we got somewhat of a scenario too, but really the market was in a sell-off mood here. This is what we saw on Friday. We saw the market just immediately start selling, a little bit of a bounce, and then it just pushed right through. Took out the rally day low here at 41 before the bounce to value area low right here, which happens to be the value area high of today. There's value low of the prior day, value high, and it pulled back and continued lower before pushing into 32.1275. I believe we have a gap zone low at 32.1225 that remains open, and then it ended up bouncing a little bit on the close. And so that's where we finished up. The volume on Friday was pretty strong, 2.58 million. The rally on Thursday also had good volume. You could see that the day had pretty high volume versus the average. The average is represented by the little black line that you see in the volume chart down on the bottom pane. The volume is definitely has been pushing higher. Even Wednesday had a pretty decent volume. This is actually welcome news as I see as I see this as an opportunity for some volatility. Here's what the overnight session looked like. Oops, sorry about that. No, I need to remove that. Here's what the overnight session looked like. Hang on, I actually switched my monitors around, so now this is a mess. Let me drag that over here. Here we go. We opened down here, pushed higher, and have not looked back. Overall, the skew from the open is bullish for the session so far. The market keeps pushing higher. We have somewhat of a double distribution profile. We'll look at the overnight session in a bit, and there's just a lot of noise beneath us right now. So it's the session really pushed higher and then has held steady. Now remember the low on Friday is 32.12 and closed the market closed on Friday at 32.28 and we opened around 32.24 so and have pushed higher since. So it seems to want to stabilize. It seems to want to stabilize in the current session. We have some liquidity at 32.50 and above there at 32.60, but nothing really stands out at me. There's a fair amount of liquidity below 32.28 half through 32.32, and then from there below 32, 25.75 down to 23 even. We see a little bit of liquidity there in the big picture. As I squish this down, you could see what's farther out at 32.05. But the overall picture is that of a pretty choppy market. I expect the open to be well participated. I expect us to chop around quite a bit this morning. Okay, let me move this out of the way. Need to adjust my monitors here in a bit. Let's take a look at what's expected for today, but I actually want to take a moment and look at the composite here. The composite is showing a little, we did break lower on a nice gap, and then we pulled back to close that gap zone and push into 92.75. The day after, we ended up opening in a gap down and pushing back up almost almost back to that closing price. This is why I expected 92.75 to be tested with a high probability. But overall, it didn't successfully do that. We opened up we opened up lower and pushed down. Where did we push to? I have a 50 SMA here, a simple moving average. This is on the day session only, RTH only, um, day session only bars in this play here, and we bounced right off of that area there. 3212 is the SMA, 50 SMA, and it pulled down to 3212.75. But the picture here is that of a market that of a push down that really looks corrective in nature to me. This looks like as long as that 92.75 stays intact, we're likely to continue lower in the big picture. To me, the market appears to want one time frame lower on the weekly. We put in a weekly lower, high, lower, low. Again, pay attention to that 92.75. That's a pretty important area at this point if we get back up there. Otherwise, the bears um, may have it this time. So that's something I just wanted to cover for a minute. Let's take a look at what's expected for today. Here we go. Today we're opening in the kind of a fat part of Friday's range. Friday was a B-shaped profile, signifying a strong potential for long liquidation. In other words, longs getting out and then resting as price went down to an area that was seen as a potential balance area. The market kind of held up a little bit. Friday's move looked impulsive down on the 15-minute for a continuation, but then we had another continuation instead of correcting as it often does. Instead of correcting this way, this is what it often does, the dash part. It ended up putting in another push lower, which we haven't seen that, or we don't see that very often these days. So overall, it's looking kind of weak, but we do have a bounce today. Oh, one of the things I forgot to cover here is the overnight session. Here's the overnight session. Volume is quite high, 506,000 contracts, but it opened and it looked like an open drive that rested and pushed higher in the Asian session. Remember, the Asian session did take a beating, or the Asian markets did take a beating overnight. China was down as much as 10%, as I said, and it tended to stabilize. The Europeans came in, and the European market opened, and it sold off a little bit. But right now, we do have the mid and the point of control beneath us, but not by much. A pretty balanced profile overnight, but a wide-ranging discovery area, and I'm expecting this to continue into the session. The delta has just turned negative. It has been, even though we pushed higher, there was little volume. It's been snaking around the zero line through most of the session, and it's holding negative, continues to hold negative here despite the fact that we are higher. So overall, the overnight session is saying that we're likely to be entangled this morning, uh, unless somebody steps in. It's likely to be entangled this morning. We are in the value area of Friday, and we're holding steady. This morning, I'm expecting an open auction that attempts to push higher, pushes the overnight high at 50, and then I'm looking for it to actually fail back to the open and move to the low, to the point of control lower down at 25.50 before it bounces. I'm looking for a relatively wide range, 20 to 25 points today on pretty decent volume. I expect the overnight volume to carry into the day session. Secondary is an open auction that drifts down, pushes into the close of Friday, consolidates in here, and then squeezes and then just holds sideways and not go anywhere. This would be the rest scenario, the resting scenario after the trend down on Friday. This would be the resting scenario before we go and test this 1275 again for a push to 0503, and then the big bounce area below is 3199 and a half. 3199 and a half is this line here, the MC point of control, this big bounce area below. Not expecting that today. We'll see what happens. Keep your ears to the news again because that is driving the market. Whatever comes up with this coronavirus stuff is likely to impact how the market perceives growth for this quarter and so on. So we'll see how that works. Anyway, good luck today. I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Take care.